The summer of 2015 in Northern California carried a strange kind of buzz. It was the season of music festivals, wine tastings, and tech conferences. The Golden Gate Bridge shimmered under the July sun, and in the valleys beyond, the vineyards were alive with tourists. Silicon Valley was celebrating another round of billion-dollar startups. To the outside world, California looked unstoppable, modern, thriving, untouchable. But in the shadows, something darker was brewing. Something that would remind everyone that progress doesn't erase fear. It only gives it new places to hide. It started with what looked like an ordinary tragedy. On July 3rd, just before the Independence Day weekend, two college students, Michael Torres and Emily Sanders, drove out to a quiet road near Vallejo. Michael had grown up in the area and knew the spot well. Couples often came here to talk, laugh, or simply enjoy the night sky away from the city lights. That evening, they parked under the stillness of the stars. By dawn, neither of them was alive. A jogger stumbled across their car on the side of the road. The windows were shattered, the doors left ajar. Michael was slumped over the wheel with two bullets in his chest. Emily lay beside him, her face pale, her body riddled with gunshot wounds. There was no sign of robbery. Their phones were still inside. A half-eaten bag of chips sat in the console. It looked like they had been ambushed without warning. Police arrived quickly, sealing off the road with tape. Investigators whispered to one another, but no one knew what to make of it. Vallejo had its share of crime, but this scene was different. Brutal yet oddly deliberate. Too deliberate. Still, detectives filed it as a possible gang-related shooting and moved on. And then came the email. 3 days later, a local San Francisco TV station received a message that sent chills through every newsroom in the city. It came from an anonymous address bouncing across servers worldwide, impossible to trace. The subject line was just 4 words: "This is the Zodiac." Inside was a PDF attachment, crudely formatted but terrifying in its clarity. The writer claimed responsibility for the Vallejo murders. He described details that hadn't been made public: the exact number of shots fired, the brand of cigarette on the dashboard, the angle of the car as it sat on the road. At the bottom was a signature, a circle with a cross drawn through it, heavy and deliberate, as if scratched in black ink. At first, editors thought it was a hoax, but as investigators read through the file, their blood ran cold. Whoever wrote it had been there. 4 weeks later, the killer struck again. On July 31st, while much of America was celebrating the long summer weekend, another couple went missing, this time in Napa County. Their bodies were discovered near a park by Lake Berryessa. The man had been shot at close range. The woman, barely alive when paramedics reached her, gasped a final, fragmented sentence before dying. He said, "Zodiac." The police had barely processed the scene when Napa County's 911 line lit up. A calm, unhurried voice spoke to the dispatcher. "I want to report a double homicide." They were at the park by Lake Berryessa. "This is the Zodiac," speaking. The dispatcher froze. She later admitted her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. By now, the pattern was impossible to ignore. News outlets raced to break the story. "Zodiac killer returns in 2015?" splashed across the headlines. Social media exploded. Reddit threads filled with theories. Twitter hashtags trended for days. Hashtag Zodiac returns. Hashtag Bay Area killer. Hashtag Cypher 2015. True crime podcasts released emergency episodes. Some people mocked it as an elaborate copycat stunt. Others weren't so sure. The police weren't sure either. The original Zodiac killer had haunted California in the late 1960s, terrorizing couples in parked cars, sending cryptic ciphers to newspapers, and taunting investigators with smug letters. His identity had never been uncovered. Was it possible that, decades later, The same killer had resurfaced? Or was someone out there trying to revive his legacy in the age of smartphones and social media? The next email only deepened the mystery. Sent simultaneously to three major newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the Los Angeles Times, and the Sacramento Bee, it contained a single-page image. The page was filled with strange characters, numbers, and symbols, all arranged in neat blocks like a puzzle. The message accompanying it was brief but chilling. Solve this, and you will know me. Ignore it, and more will die. Zodiac. It was the digital rebirth of an old nightmare. Cryptographers, amateur sleuths, and even casual internet users threw themselves at the challenge. Forums buzzed with attempts at decoding the cipher. Some claimed to see names hidden in the symbols. Others thought it was a riddle pointing to future attacks. For days, speculation ran wild. Meanwhile, police tried desperately to keep up. Every trace led nowhere. The emails were routed through international servers, bouncing from Russia to Germany to the Middle East before landing in American inboxes. The phone call had been masked by encrypted VoIP services. It was as though the killer was laughing at them from behind a wall of firewalls and codes. By the end of that summer, one thing was clear. The Zodiac was back, or at least someone who wanted the world to believe he was. And as history had shown before, once the Zodiac begins speaking, the bodies are never far behind. And this time, he had the entire internet as his stage. By the time autumn rolled into Northern California in 2015, the Zodiac was no longer just a whisper of history. He was alive again, lurking in the shadows, seeding terror with every word, every symbol, every digital fingerprint he chose to leave behind. What began as isolated incidents had grown into a chilling pattern. The Vallejo murders had shocked the local community, but when the Napa County attack followed, it was impossible to dismiss. Two attacks, two couples, two identical calling cards. Calm phone calls and chilling emails signed with the same strange symbol, a circle with a cross through it. A ghost had stepped back into the spotlight, and this time he had the entire internet watching. The theater murders. In August, the case escalated. On the evening of August 15th, Daniel Wright and his girlfriend, Kayla Brooks, left a movie theater in Vallejo after a late showing of a summer blockbuster. Security cameras captured them laughing as they exited, Kayla clutching a soda cup in her hand. They walked into the parking lot, completely unaware they were being watched. Their car was discovered hours later, abandoned on a side road just 3 miles from the theater. The doors were open, blood streaks marked the seats, and two shell casings glinted under the glow of police flashlights. There was no sign of the couple. The next morning, an encrypted email landed in the inbox of the San Francisco Chronicle. Attached were two photographs, grainy, almost like they'd been taken with a low-resolution security camera. But they weren't. They were private snapshots taken from a distance, showing Daniel and Kayla standing together in the theater lobby, smiling, alive. Beneath the photos was a short message. "I told you I was watching. I told you I would strike again. You cannot stop me. I am the Zodiac." 2 days later, Daniel and Kayla's bodies were discovered in a remote area near Vallejo, both shot execution style. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community. This wasn't just about random killings anymore. The Zodiac was stalking people, studying them, following them, and then taking their lives as if it were part of some twisted performance. With every attack, the Zodiac's reach grew. He no longer needed newspapers to carry his threats. He had social media. Twitter accounts claiming to be him popped up overnight. Facebook groups with thousands of members debated theories. Some posts included doctored photos with his symbol crudely drawn on victims' images. Many were hoaxes, but a few were traced back to accounts tied to servers the real Zodiac had used. It became impossible to separate his actual voice from the noise. This flood of misinformation made law enforcement's job nearly impossible. Police received hundreds of false tips each week. Some were from pranksters. Others were from terrified residents convinced their neighbor, coworker, or even spouse was the killer. Investigators found themselves drowning in leads, chasing shadows while the real Zodiac stayed steps ahead. Then came the attack that changed everything. On September 27th, two college students from UC Davis, Sarah Lynn and Marcus Perez, decided to spend the afternoon at Lake Berryessa. They picnicked near the water, enjoying the last warmth of summer. It was broad daylight when the man appeared, dressed head to toe in black, his face hidden behind a crude mask. In his hand was a long hunting knife. He approached them calmly, almost politely. He tied them with zip ties, telling them he was a fugitive who needed money in their car to escape. But then his tone shifted. His voice grew colder, flatter. He introduced himself with three words: "I'm the Zodiac." What followed was a scene ripped straight from a nightmare. He stabbed them again and again, each blow deliberate. Marcus died instantly. Sarah, bleeding heavily, managed to crawl a few feet before collapsing. She would not survive the ambulance ride. Before leaving, the killer pulled out a can of spray paint. On the bark of a tree, he painted his signature symbol, the circle with the cross. Below it, he listed his previous 2015 murders, marking each with a tally. It was his way of keeping score, his scoreboard of death. An hour later, Napa County's 911 center received another call. The dispatcher recognized the calm, chilling voice immediately. "There has been a double homicide." They were by the lake. "This is the Zodiac speaking." Once again, he gave precise directions, as though daring the police to race him to the scene. By now, the Zodiac wasn't just a California story, it was national. CNN and Fox News aired nightly updates. The FBI established a dedicated task force, pouring resources into tracking him. Cryptographers across the globe worked day and night to crack his new ciphers. Netflix and Hulu announced plans for documentaries even as the case unfolded. But the killer thrived on the chaos, and he loved the attention. Every headline, every viral post was proof that his plan was working. And then, in October, he made his boldest move yet. On October 12th, an Uber driver named Paul Stein picked up a passenger in San Francisco. Minutes later, his car was found parked at a quiet intersection. Paul had been shot once in the head. Witnesses claimed they saw a man wiping down the inside of the car before calmly walking away. Police arrived within minutes, but the killer was gone. This time, the Zodiac didn't just send an email. He hacked into the San Francisco Chronicle's website. For 2 terrifying hours, every visitor to the site saw the same chilling message: "I am still here. I am smarter than your detectives, faster than your technology. Catch me if you can. Zodiac." The message was taken down quickly, but not before screenshots spread like wildfire across the internet. At that moment, California understood something terrifying. The Zodiac wasn't just a man with a gun anymore. He was a man with the ability to infiltrate lives, technology, even news outlets. He was everywhere and nowhere. And as Halloween approached, many feared the worst, that the Zodiac had only just begun. By late November 2015, California had been living in fear for months. The Zodiac's shadow stretched across every county, every news cycle, every corner of the internet. This wasn't the 1960s anymore. America had smartphones in every pocket, cameras on every street, GPS in every car. And yet one man had managed to outsmart it all. The San Francisco Police Department was overwhelmed. Calls poured in daily, tips, sightings, confessions, and copycats. Families of victims begged for answers on national television. Politicians demanded progress. But behind closed doors, detectives admitted the truth. They were chasing a ghost who was always 2 steps ahead. The FBI had joined the hunt in August, but by November they were running the show. A multi-agency task force was assembled, bringing together cybercrime experts, code breakers, behavioral profilers, and homicide detectives from across the country. Their war room was a sea of monitors displaying ciphers, email headers, social media chatter, and heat maps of suspected Zodiac sightings. Special Agent Daniel Harper, who led the digital team, described the Zodiac as a phantom in the wires. The killer used hijacked Wi-Fi routers, disposable burner phones, and encrypted servers to communicate. Every trace ended in dead zones. Sometimes investigators thought they had a lead, only to realize the signal had been bouncing off servers across 3 continents. The ciphers were no easier. Each new message seemed more complex than the last, filled with strange mathematical patterns, obscure symbols, and phrases that made little sense. Some amateur cryptographers claimed partial breakthroughs, but the FBI never confirmed a full solution. The unsolved codes hung in the air like puzzles taunting the nation. In early December, a new chapter of terror unfolded. A hidden YouTube page appeared online. The video was less than a minute long, but it sent chills through everyone who saw it. The camera was shaky, the quality poor, but the figure at the center was unmistakable. A man wearing a crude mask, dressed entirely in black, sitting against a blank backdrop. His voice was distorted, but the words were clear. "You failed to stop me in the 60s. You will fail again. Technology means nothing. I am forever." The screen then went black, replaced by the Zodiac's cross-circle symbol in blood red. It was uploaded only once to a hidden channel, but within hours it was downloaded, mirrored, and spread across every corner of the internet. News anchors replayed it over and over. Analysts dissected every frame. Was it really him? Was it staged by a copycat? Was the voice altered or genuine? But the deeper question haunted everyone. How was he always 1 step ahead? The Christmas murders. As December rolled on, people clung to hope that the Zodiac had finally gone quiet. The attacks had slowed, the messages less frequent, but just as families began preparing for Christmas, he struck again. On December 22nd, a young couple, Anthony Ruiz and Jessica Hall, were found inside their car in Oakland. Both had been shot execution style. The vehicle showed no signs of forced entry, no robbery, nothing stolen. In the glove compartment, detectives found a flash drive. On it was a single file, a plain text document. It read, "Merry Christmas. This is only the beginning." The Zodiac. The timing was brutal. The city was lit up with Christmas lights. Families were gathering, children waiting for presents. And yet the Zodiac had reminded everyone that he was still out there, still watching. Fear spread like wildfire. People canceled travel plans. Couples avoided going out at night. Police departments increased patrols, but the unease lingered. And then, just like that, it stopped. By January 2016, the Zodiac's voice had vanished. No new attacks, no emails, no ciphers, no phone calls. The forums that had once been alive with activity began to quiet down. The 24/7 news coverage slowed. California, weary and exhausted, tried to breathe again. But the silence was not reassuring. It was haunting. Detectives knew that serial killers don't simply stop, not unless they're caught, dead, or locked away. Yet no one was ever arrested. No body was ever linked. No trace of DNA confirmed. The case remained wide open, but the trail grew colder with each passing week. To this day, the 2015 Zodiac case is a subject of endless debate. Some believe it was the original Zodiac himself, impossibly old but still alive, somehow capable of killing and hacking with chilling precision. Others are certain it was a copycat, someone obsessed with the mythology, determined to bring it back for a new digital generation. Another theory claims it wasn't a single man at all, but a group. Hackers and criminals working together under the Zodiac name, feeding off the legend, sharing the crimes like a twisted fraternity. The truth? No one knows. What's certain is that the Zodiac of 2015 achieved exactly what he wanted. He reminded the world of his power. He proved that even in an age of technology, surveillance cameras, and digital footprints, fear was still the most powerful weapon of all. The ciphers remain unsolved. The case remains cold. The families of victims remain without justice. And in the dark corners of the internet, where the Zodiac symbol sometimes reappears like a ghost, people still wonder, was it really him? Or is he still out there, waiting for the right moment to speak again? And if he does, will we be ready? Because his final words still linger in the air, echoing across every encrypted server and every unsolved puzzle. If you found this case as haunting as we did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next true crime story. Share your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think the Zodiac really was? Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and remember,